Hello and welcome to a Stroke of Luck's podcast with me, Romy, and Paul. We are both stroke survivors. You may have already seen us both on our Instagram live interviews talking with Craig about our personal stroke stories. If you haven't, you must check it out on a Stroke of Luck's Instagram page under the live Friday sessions. Everyone's journey is unique, and in today's episode, we go behind the scenes on BBC TV's Your Body Uncovered with Kate Garraway, starring our very own Paul, who is now with us to talk about this experience. So, Paul, firstly, hi, and welcome to our podcast. Does it feel weird that we'll be interviewing yourself on our first episode?
Yeah, it does, Romy. Hello. And it does feel weird to be without Craig, doesn't it? And we're obviously doing this with Craig's blessing, and Craig wants the charity to be more than just about him. So, yeah, Romy and I forged a bit of a connection through our journeys, and obviously a Stroke of Luck has brought us together. We're part of each other's A team. So, yeah, it's going to be great to have a chat about my TV experience. Yeah, that sort of didn't expect that a few years ago before I had my stroke, but there you go.
I know, who'd have thought you'd have to have a stroke to become famous?
Yeah, it's a bit of an extreme way to get on telly, isn't it? But
Yeah, well, you've done a great job of it anyway. So let's begin by briefly recapping how long you are now post-stroke and where you are in your recovery journey.
Okay, so I had my stroke in November 2019. So I had the stroke then, had obviously thrombectomy, etc. But you can watch that on the BBC programme. It's on iPlayer, so watch that to get the background of my story. And obviously I went through it with Craig on Instagram Live. So what's that? Two and a bit years ago, something like that. I can't even work it out.
Just blame the brain injury.
Well, yeah, no, mental arithmetic's completely gone these days. I can't track of time, mental arithmetic's all over the place. But so I got back to work after about 2 months back at work, and then about 4 months in was lockdown. So obviously then the world changed, didn't it? And here we are, however long after that, and still at the tail end of the pandemic. But obviously, very early on after my stroke, I connected with Craig and then got sort of drawn into a Stroke of Luck sort of community and stuff like that. So
become part of the family.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it is a good family, isn't it? And it's lots of obviously strokes, absolutely. More people have strokes than you realise, don't you, before you've had one, and the amount of younger survivors has completely surprised me.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think when you come out of hospital and you're like surrounded by older people, you kind of think you're very isolated in terms of your age bracket, and then you come out and you find a stroke of luck and you're like, oh, this is a stroke of luck because I'm surrounded by people my age and younger generation. And I think that's been the support from the charity has just been overwhelming, and meeting people like yourselves, just even able to just share our thoughts and how we feel, and I think relating back to people going through the same things has just been invaluable, and I'm sure you can agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was made up with was actually being called a young stroke survivor. I was like, oh well, hold on, I'm mid-40s. I thought, quite like that label. So, but obviously there's, present company, more younger than me and all that type of stuff. But it did make me feel, that's all right. I am relatively young. But and I think one of the main things that kind of connects us, and we were having this sort of conversation as part of our supporting arrangement about return to work and stuff like that, and that was the thing really prominent in my mind when I had my stroke. I never felt my life was at threat, and although obviously it was, but it didn't feel like my life was under threat. But I did immediately think, am I ever going to work again? And that for me was my driving factor. And actually, I think it was that driving factor that actually was the sort of the start of the journey to then get the phone call to see whether I wanted to be on this TV show. which so
yeah, I mean, what a fantastic opportunity. I mean, I'd love you to just share, like, how did this come about?
Yeah, so like I said, I was very much in the mindset of I need to get, I want to give myself the confidence so I can get back to work and be capable and stuff like that. And in my job, I've done a little bit of media stuff on local news and stuff like that for my job. And when I got discharged,
so you're not shy. So you're not a shy character then.
Well, no, I am actually. I'm blooming terrible as a kid. I'm the most socially inept human being ever. But actually, obviously, something's been unlocked in later life. But so when I got discharged from Addenbrooke's, I think I had a letter or a phone call asking from the PR department asking if I'd be open for doing any sort of PR opportunities, because like they don't have that many young people who've had thrombectomy. I had a thrombectomy, that you see that in the show. I think Addenbrooke's only do 30 thrombectomies a year. So actually they want people
So you was a rare case for them.
Yeah, exactly, and I know I've come out of it well. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm happy to do any PR stuff because actually if I get that opportunity, it'll help me get the confidence back that I can communicate and articulate and do all that type of stuff. And obviously then I did the Instagram live with Craig, and that sort of got me into a state of confidence, if you like, that I could talk openly about my experience, where I was at. And obviously
so you wasn't hesitant to do either, really,
No,
you didn't feel ashamed or
no, I feel very lucky, and I've got Crohn's disease. I've had a sort of long 20 years up and down with my health, and the stroke was just the sort of the last
icing on the cake.
Well, yeah, the last of the current chapters in that. Hopefully it's the last of all of my health challenge chapters, but anyway. So it was about just about a year ago, so April, May 2021, phone call out of the blue from the press people at Addenbrooke saying, I see you've said that you do press. Would you be interested in exploring being on a new TV show that the BBC are commissioning? The person who spoke to me didn't know much about it. I said, yeah. So then a couple of days later, I had a phone call off the researcher, and then we had to do a Zoom interview. So I was interviewed, and then Lynn, my wife, was interviewed by so it was just the researcher chatting through the opportunity and our experience, and obviously recording it, and then sending it back to the BBC to see, are these people suitable for BBC, or are they more Channel 5 type people, or whatever, So they obviously did their checks and balances on us, made sure we weren't, some sort of magic. Yeah, exactly. And then the wheels got put in motion, and one of the first things that they had to do was, and if anyone's seen the series, in fact all of the other cases were people being taken through their medical procedures, so it was all sort of as through the journey, whereas what they described to me is they wanted to use this technology on thrombectomy, so the augmented reality on thrombectomy, but obviously can't do that in real time because it's an emergency situation, and no one's going to be wanting the cameras around in an emergency situation.
And they could have been sat there for very frightening.
Yeah, and all of this was being filmed through the pandemic, so the getting all the ducks in a row from the filming company was, I think, a bit of a nightmare. But anyway, so they wanted to do thrombectomy, but they had to check that the scans that I had during my stroke, pre and post thrombectomy, were suitable to be translated through this software to then be used. So had to give the authorization to do that. They came back and said, yeah, the scans are of good enough quality. And then the lady said, you doubly sure that you're all in for this, because as soon as I press this button, that's quite a bit of money then being committed to.
That's what I was gonna say. Did you have at that point, before you kind of went ahead, any immediate fears or worries about doing the show?
So Lynn was uncertain, because again, she's not, well, she hasn't done media stuff, and she's never had to
I suppose you run the risk of opening your private life
to
the world.
Yeah, and then you're not in control of the editing and how that's put across, and what people think, all that type of stuff. My daughters weren't overly keen to do the show, so they needed.
Really?
No, apparently being on TV isn't cool in
It's not cool, yeah.
Yeah, it's not cool. So we had to beg, borrow, really turn the screw to get them. But but I had to shed loads of forms that I don't really know what I signed, and
Signed your life away.
Yeah, and then it was like, right, game on. We'll be in touch type of thing. So that's how it started.
And then once you started the show, was there solid direction, or was it a bit of find your feet as you go along?
So that was the angle that was really, really interesting. So the way it manifested itself, so they came to they first came to the house for a day, for half a day of filming. So they turned up just after lunchtime, and then we're here till about 7. So that's where they filmed us eating a pizza, because it was like, there's no way we're going to cook a dinner and get the girls around the table whilst you've got the camera there. That is just, because the big thing for me in all of this,
Romy, invasive, really.
Well, yeah, but the big thing for me in it all was the anxiety around the logistics. So that was the bit that was stressing me out the most. It was like, well, hold on a minute, Lynn's at work, she works in a school, so you can't just have a day off. I can take days off and time off, but the girls, and then Molly goes swimming. So how do we fit all of this in around our life in a way that isn't oppressive and what have you? So they turned up for half a day and did the filming where they shot Lynn and us in the garden and making the bed, which was just a really weird thing to be asked to do. But it wasn't really scripted. So obviously we'd done the interview explaining the stroke and our story. And it was there was 2 people that turned up to the house, the sort of cameraman and stroke editor and someone else. And they were just asking us the story in different ways, and then sort of taking down bits that we wanted to elaborate, and then filming it from different angles and all of this type of stuff. It was strange, because you're sort of answering the same question a few times, but very, very, very weird, and stuff like that. But it was good. And then they go at the end of the day, and then we got the invite to go down to the studio in London. So that was the next thing.
Oh, cool. No, that sounds it sounds really good. I mean, my biggest question, which I'm sure any stroke survivor listening will be dying to hear, is how did fatigue play out?
So I was really worried about that going to London. But so the London thing was interesting. So we obviously they paid for the train to go down to London. We're in Peterborough, so it's only an hour away. So it's not like a big overnight thing, all of that type of stuff. But the day before, obviously, with Lynn and I thinking, Lynn got the day off work, I'd taken the day off work. It was a Wednesday, I think. And it ended up being the hottest day of last year, early on in June. It was absolutely baking. And bearing in mind, it was in between lockdowns as well. But we haven't been on a train for a year. We haven't really been out, hardly, been out the house, but we haven't done anything like that. So that was nervous. But
and obviously we, as stroke survivors, we were classified as a vulnerable category. So obviously, how did you feel about going on the train with that in the back of your mind?
Well, I was in that camp anyway, because I'm immunosuppressed with my Crohn's disease, so I've been shielding earlier on in the pandemic. So this was very much a case of, okay, this is very strange. But the most stressful thing the day before was when we were trying to work out what to wear. We're having frantic text messages with the researcher. Genuinely, what do you wear to be on telly? Right, okay, women, no black, no white. So Lynn's like, hold on a minute, all my dresses are black and white. So she gets in the car and drives off to the shopping centre and uses an excuse to buy 2 dresses.
Emergency credit card.
Yeah. And then then it was for fellas, right? What was it? No jeans, no big logos, no black, no white, no stripes. And I'm thinking, oh, okay.
So stressful.
So dust off my wardrobe that's hardly been open for 2 years. And then I'm thinking, I really haven't got much to choose from here. So I got my best stuff out and was taking pictures, sending it to the researcher. And everyone, she's coming back with the big,
No.
And at the end, she just said, "Look, we'll buy you something."
I was going to say, do you know what I was actually going to say? It's actually better that they just give you something.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was that stress over, and then we headed down to London, and actually the train from Peterborough was empty, so that bit was absolutely fine. You get on the tube because we were in Whitechapel where the studio was. And actually that was pretty empty as well, so that bit was fine. And then you get out at Whitechapel, and the runner had come to meet us at the station to walk us to the studio, so we didn't have to find it. But it was really great because
wasn't it tiring? So did you find that the journey itself was tiring? Because, you know, if I was to deflect slightly in terms of me going back to work and doing a journey into London on the train, it's a huge aspect of fatigue draining me, in just for the journey, So if I go back to you and doing that journey on the train, did you feel that, you know, impacted your fatigue?
Not that time, because, and I think the thing for me with that whole day, so I you know, I'd taken the next day off work in preparation for the day was going to wipe me out. And actually through the, I mean, I'll talk about the day as we go along, but actually the fatigue that I thought I would experience didn't manifest itself. And I think because I treated the whole day as a learning experience, as just right, I'm just going to take it a bit of a free hit. I'm not going to experience this again. It was a sort of new exploration thing. So actually it wasn't as tiring or as stressful as I'd feared. And I don't know why.
Good. That's positive.
I might have just been so high on adrenaline and so happy to be out of the house that, and you know, it was a shared experience with Lynn. You know, whenever I go to London, it's either I'm going with football or I'm commuting for work. But it didn't feel like a work commute. It was like a, you know, it was like a sort of freebie exploratory day. You're going to meet, you know, celebrity Kate Garraway and all that type of stuff. So it was like, let's just have fun with it, really. So anyway, we get to Whitechapel. You start to smell all the sort of cultural little eateries that are out there, which are fantastic because you know you haven't smelt that for a few years.
Croissants.
Yeah, and then we got walked to the studio, and you get into the studio, and there's Kate Garraway getting her makeup done. You're like, oh, hello, hi.
Oh wow! I mean, let's just turn to Kate Garraway for a second. I mean, I would be so starstruck. Was you starstruck, or was you just completely at ease?
Well, I not 2 months after the stroke, Romy, I met the Queen. So you know what? Anything. I mean,
there's no,
that we can do another podcast about that. But to be honest, I mean, I obviously knew who she was, but I don't watch daytime TV or anything like that, so I didn't really know. Lynn was like, okay, and obviously we knew her story, so we knew what was going on with her husband at the time with his
she's
COVID.
Going to have a lot of compassion.
Yeah. But it you know, so that was in our minds actually. You know, she's got all that going on. Here's me coming, had a good experience with a neurological condition, talking really positively about it, but she's in the state that, and at the time I think he was still in hospital, so yeah, that was a bit awkward, but actually she approached that really, really well. You know, she was open about that and actually probed in between the filming, you know, and sort of talking about little experiences that might help him and stuff like that. So that was really nice. And they had a rack of H&M clothing for me to choose from. It's just like brilliant, you know.
Oh, how nice.
So yeah, it was so just trying on a few bits, got a makeup.
You found an outfit, and I'm dying to know, what was the colour that you chose?
Oh no, it's this really sort of I'd never wear it, you know. So to be fair, I wore the shirt once the other day actually because I was doing interviews, so I wore it, but I'm not sure I'm going to wear that outfit again, except for maybe, you know, at the BAFTAs or a celebrity appearance here.
The Queen's garden party.
Exactly, but
waiting for the invite.
Yeah, so we first went to like a hotel reception area that had been sort of made up as a sort of cafe. And we were interviewed by Kate, and none of this made it into the TV show, but that was the starting. So it was a chat with Kate about what happened and all of this type of stuff, and you had
Which probably relaxed you into the show more so.
Yeah, it was, and you know, we got to, you know, have time with her. We got to see how the TV stuff works. You know, when I've done local news stuff, there's, you know, a cameraman and someone else, whereas here there was like what felt like 30 or 40 people, all with their different roles, running around like, you know, Blue Arse Watsits. all kitted out and stuff. And obviously with COVID, it was all a bit strange. But yeah, so we had the sort of first interview with Kate, and then we filmed loads of shots sort of walking away down the road, all of that type of long shot type stuff. And then then we sort of then waited for the bits with the medical stuff and the headsets, which was filmed sort of after lunch, because I think they had to get that all set up. I think my shoot was only the second of the 12 that had been filmed using the headset, so it was still in that early stage, and it was the hottest day of the year, so everything was overheating. So
yes.
It wasn't a proper TV studio. It was obviously somewhere that had been hired out, and it was downstairs was quite nice, just where the makeup stuff was, and there was delivery people who just kept filling the table up with prep sandwiches and lunch and all that type of stuff, so you're just eating and drinking stuff to keep hydrated. But upstairs where the studio was laid out and where all the equipment was and the cameras was like a greenhouse, and it was absolutely baking, and it didn't have any air conditioning. So that was the thing. But it was really nice. The head honcho came and chatted to Lynn and I during the break between filming, talking about where she sort of conceived the idea of the program, what had driven it, what she wanted to achieve out of it. She was very much a case of, I want this to be medically accurate, so not a dramatization type show. And obviously it's got to have that human story, because TV programs do these days, but she wanted it to be medically accurate, and I think you could see that in the way the series sort of was presented at the end.
No, absolutely. I mean, I watched the episode live when it was aired, and I was hooked from start to finish. I thought it was fascinating, just understanding, the science, the medical representation of behind the scenes, and about your personal stroke as well. And it was emotional as well. I think I felt your emotion that and I think you represented the emotion that you was feeling in that show. And I think from a stroke patient myself, all I wanted to know from the off was why it happened and what was the cause. It was almost a bit of an obsession, to be honest, and understanding and seeing yours visually. I mean, it must have brought quite a big amount of closure to you in many ways, gives you an opportunity to move forward with it. I mean, would you say you reached acceptance by doing this show, or had you already reached that point before this?
Well, I think, and it's interesting because throughout all the questioning, you're thinking, obviously, they're wanting some sort of eureka type moment and stuff like this, and it was very different, because obviously everyone else who was being filmed were obviously preparing for surgery. So actually their augmented reality experience was helping them describe what was going on at the time within their body, and therefore why surgery was, or treatment was the right thing to do, within doubts and all of that type of stuff. Whereas mine was, well, actually, here, Paul, is what happened. And actually, having, obviously you do your research afterwards, don't you? I was like, okay, that's what a thrombectomy was. Obviously learn loads about stroke and all of that, but actually seeing your stroke and your clot and having the opportunity. I mean, Dr. Goody was brilliant, by the way. So I spent most time with Dr. Goody, and Lynn was with Kate during this London day, because they were there watching, and we were obviously doing the sort of medical component.
Just briefly, with your relationship with your consultant, had you had much communications with him before the TV show, after your stroke, or
no?
Was that the kind of first time you'd seen him since? So
Dr. Yoshi, who was on the show with me, wasn't my stroke consultant. He was the chap who did the thrombectomy. So I'd seen my stroke consultant, but Dr. Yoshi I hadn't seen. So I had my thrombectomy, and then I was discharged 24 hours later, and he hadn't done the ward round to come and see how I was. So I never thought I'd meet him again. And actually, I didn't know he was going to be on the show until the day we were in London. And then I was like, maybe I should have asked that. So weirdly, when we were then getting set up to do the studio headset filming bit.
VR thing.
Yeah, so we did the bit in the corridor, and Dr. Goody said hello, and we'll take you through. And then it was straight into meet Dr. Josh. I was thinking, I haven't seen him since he's basically burying him into my brain and pulling out a clot.
Did he give you flashbacks? Like, did he give you kind of a weird?
Well, the weirdness was, you're walking into a studio with about 3 or 4 big TV cameras. There he is. And you're thinking, well, actually, this is COVID days, so I can't go and give you a hug, which is kind of what I want to do.
What you wanted to do, yeah.
So you sort of, you can't even, can't shake hands. So you're just sort of going up and going, hello. And obviously he's not used to being on TV either. So you got these 2 wooden people going, hello, while they're filming.
Yeah, it's like unnatural.
So no is the answer. It's the first time I got to see him again. And obviously, then we spent a bit of time together in between filming, just having a normal person's type conversation. So, that was brilliant. And so the time with him off camera was really valuable, because again, you don't get that with your with your medics, do you? With your surgeons, with the people who effectively save your life. So that was great. And having Dr. Goody there as well, and just chatting about stroke and thrombectomy and some of the stuff and experiences was great. Was great. But we it was mad, really. So we got to see my scans, and that was the first time I'd seen my actual scans when they were there, and I was like,
wow.
I don't even know which way round this is. So basically they just encouraged me to ask the daft question.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the question.
It's what everyone was asking. It's what everyone's thinking, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you think it's daft, but actually everyone's asking the same question. And how many times have we seen an MRI scan of our brains where they're telling us it's our brain, but it doesn't look anything like what we expect it to look like, or we just look at it and nod and go, okay, that's the brain. But how nice of you to be able to see and understand what it is that you're being shown.
So I like I said, it was there and in front of me, and you're thinking, well, okay, that's me, right? And obviously what was on TV was polished up, graphically, so it wasn't as amazing as that when it's there, but it was still absolutely amazing. A bit like being in Tron type of thing, but with your head in front of you. And so you're asking the questions, and I've obviously been ripped by my nieces and nephews for squatting down so much, but I was just genuinely interested in how it looked, and they'd edited all the squats that I did into the TV show, so I got a bit of ribbon from that off my family. But yeah, you're just asking the questions. The chap who was obviously in charge of the headset looks really nervous because they were really expensive. So every time someone picked him up, you could see him sweating. But it was so hot. It was so hot, Romy. One of the cameramen who then filmed me for a later bit of filming basically said he's filmed in deserts that have been colder than, he said he has never filmed anywhere as hot as that day was. Dr. Goody had this woolen jacket on. That was a faux pas. So I had a shirt on that within 5 minutes I was dripping. So
was there no aircon?
No, so they had to go and get me a spare shirt. So I was basically rotating 2 shirts. They had 2 aircon units, the plug-in ones.
Yeah.
But as soon as they start filming, you have to turn all the sound off. So it basically, in between filming, turn the aircon on. I was literally over it like this, just trying to dry, top off, trying to dry the sweat off, while one shirt was drying, the other one was sweaty, and we're just rotating them. It was properly.
It sounds quite funny.
It's properly minging, but you just I was just like, well, we'll just go with it. So we continued the filming, and then it was getting late. So we were meant to be back at home, or the filming was meant to finish about 6, and we'd arranged for our daughters to go to friends after school. And then it's like, well, hold on a minute. It was 7 o'clock, and we were nowhere near finished. But Lynn's bit had finished, so I was like, Lynn, you've got to go home. So she went to get an earlier train. And really, I wanted the journey home together as well. But it was like, we've got to get back for the girls, So I was staying for another hour, where they did close-ups of people putting visors on, and little shots with different angles, all of this sort of fancy stuff. And because the filming had been delayed throughout the day because it was so hot and the equipment was overheating, so finished it off, and then I took a little all the leftover prep sandwiches downstairs. I rammed into a bag and had a little picnic on the train back on my own. Just absolutely, buzzing, smiling, shattered. I slept well that night, and I did. I think I took the day off the next day from work and just loafed. But I was on an absolute high. It was
on a high. I mean, if you was to sum up the whole day, what did you enjoy about it the most?
I enjoyed. You know what? I enjoyed meeting new people and seeing the different roles come into play around TV. I think that's what I enjoyed the most. And testing myself in a new environment, because it wasn't scripted in any way. So that was the good thing. So it wasn't like I had a script to learn and because that would have gone all sorts of pear-shaped for me. It was me just being me.
Do you have any memory impairments since your stroke?
Aphasia, very, very mild. So, I sometimes get my words mixed up or stumble and stuff like that, like I just did. And obviously this was a year ago, so I've improved since. But
so having actually no script probably was quite good for you.
It was, and what they had, they had the people in the background going, well, have we covered this angle? Have we covered this angle and stuff like this? And then it was like, right, Dr. Goody, can you just sort of say this? And then Paul just sort of respond, so we did
coach you along a little bit.
Yeah, we did a lot of that, and so that was really interesting just to observe. You add that to your sort of, okay, well, that's how it works. That's that's nothing to be daunting. So got home, and then it was a case of back to normality. At this point, we weren't really allowed to tell anyone that we were being on TV or anything. I'm pretty sure one of the bits of paperwork I signed said I can't really say too much about it.
Non-disclosure.
Yeah, a little bit like that. So we obviously let my mum and dad know, and had to let work know, obviously, because I'd taken the day off and stuff like this. But I didn't broadcast it or anything.
Push it too much.
And then it was a case of the follow-up. So they played a lot on the fact that I'd got a swim planned, because obviously they want a bit of a human story, and everyone else obviously had the story that they had they had surgery afterwards and whatever.
Yes.
So they wanted some form of positive ending and stuff like this. So we were all geared up for the swim, which was then postponed because I think there was blue-green algae at Milton Keynes. So the swim was meant to happen, I think, in June or July, I think. Ended up being in October when it was freezing. So that's why there weren't as many people swimming as were meant to be in July. It was a sort of more low-key event. But it was freezing. I really didn't want to do it in October. But you're like, I've got to now. It's on telly.
Yes.
So they did
pushed you into it.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. They came to do some contingency filming in case that swimming never happened. So they filmed me at Peterborough Lido for about an hour or two. So they did another set of filming that they didn't need to use in the end. Then filmed me at Milton Keynes, which again was an interesting experience. Obviously film being
must have felt really like a famous person with these.
Well, it was because
after filming you.
Yeah, well, they'd obviously been in touch with the organisers to say, is it okay? Yes, it is. Then you turn up, and the film crew, there was a cameraman and a sort of assistant producer. So it wasn't like a big entourage or anything. And then filming you, and everyone's like, why are they filming you? And all of this. So that was a little bit strange. And
did you ever anyone come up to you and ask for your autograph?
No, sadly not. Not.
That's to come on the next one then.
Yeah, exactly. I was very happy they didn't film me try to get the wetsuit off, because it took me ages. I was freezing. Actually, I couldn't get
you.
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny because the cameraman obviously filmed me jumping in at the start of the swim, and then he went to, I think one of the support crew of the race said, do you want to get in a boat and film him swimming? So he's yes, let's get in the boat. So the cameraman got into this boat, and I'm swimming off. And then I'm getting out at the other end. I'm thinking, and where's the camera? I have my glasses off, so I was like, where's the cameraman? I couldn't see him anywhere. And this basically got on what effectively was a pedalo, not a speedboat. so by the time he'd actually got the boat I'd finished. Which is why the filming very quickly then cut to get pedal. So we did all that, and then what was nice, because I didn't expect it, was the final consultation bit where I met Dr. Goody and my Dr. Yoshi again in Cambridge. So again, that was another nice day. They arranged for a taxi to Cambridge.
Nice
Bit
part
of
of the country.
Yeah, lovely. Bit of time there again with Dr. Goody and Dr. Yoshi, just sort of wrapping it up, and then it was a case of waiting for the news as to when it'd be aired, because
Yeah.
it was it was one of them. It was like everyone's asking me, when's it going to be aired? When's it going to be aired? Every time I had contact from the production company, it's like, well, we're still tweaking some of the filming, and actually it's down to the BBC when they put it out, so they have no control over it. And then all of a sudden you see the listing come up on
BBC.
on BBC, and you think, oh hell, this is real now.
Yeah. So the day, so obviously the evening, the night that it's out, are you sitting on the sofa with all your family rewatching it, or did you watch it back, or?
So we had a preview. So we had a preview, I think, a couple of weeks beforehand. It wasn't with the final edit, and actually some of Kate's voiceover hadn't been done. But we they did a Zoom and sort of showed us our bit. They didn't show us the bit of the lady who was on the episode with us with her colon surgery, but they showed us our bit, just so that we could just reassure ourselves that it had been edited okay and all of this type of stuff. Just settled your nerves down.
Yeah.
Bit cringy, obviously, as it always is, watching yourself on anything.
And what about, most importantly, how was your daughter's reaction?
So they didn't see the preview, but they did watch it with us, and we were at my mum and dad's actually on the 6th of April when it was filmed, and it was great to be part of the finale. Actually, I didn't expect that, so that was really quite nice. And so we all watched it, and the girls were they were okay. And they literally had a line each and stuff like this, which is all they were edited in, which is good, because they didn't really want to feature. That's all they was willing to watch. And then they're getting their messages off their mates or their mates' mums and going, oh, so
I was going to say, so like the response. So how has the response been, and what's been the feedback for you? Have you had any negativity? I'd like to think.
No, and they did prep you for that, and it is difficult, isn't it? Because especially with the stroke community, when you've got so many people who are struggling in that victim mindset, that Craig talks about a lot. And actually, if you've had a really negative experience, then hearing from others who've had a positive experience, and I'm really mindful of that. I was
I had a very negative medical experience. In fact, I couldn't have it couldn't have gone any more worse, but you have to turn it into a positive. I think for your recovery journey, you have to put to bed, you have to let it lay and move on from that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, so I was incredibly fortunate. I think, as I might have said it in the TV show, if you're going to have a stroke, have an outcome like I had, because, and if you could, I wish I could gift that on everyone who has a stroke, but I can't. But actually, if I can turn that positivity into some advocacy that helps other people or helps the medical professional put more investment into stroke support or thrombectomy or whatever it is, I'm sure there's lots of people who, quite a lot of people jealous about the experience that 12 people had on the show, and you wish that they could have had that experience.
I hope that people wouldn't be jealous. I'd hope that people would be pleased and look at you as such a positive, inspirational stroke survivor, and want to be more and want to be like you, positive, and use your stroke journey to inspire other stroke survivors, and hopefully maybe some of the information that you provided with your personal experience helped somebody else.
Yeah, and I've had quite a lot of messages like that, or seen posts on forums in that sort of mind, in that sort of guise, and had loads of feedback from people I know, people I don't know, people I know close, people who I didn't expect to would say anything and stuff like that. So that's been really positive, and hopefully they do a series 2, and actually.
Yeah, I was going to say. So what's next for you?
What's next for me? I won't be on series 2 unless something else happens to me, which is certainly not in my life plan. But you've done. I think if I speak on behalf of Craig, he'd be reiterating this. You've
represented a stroke of luck so admirably, and I think, you know, we're all so proud of you for doing this. It's a brave thing to do, go on TV, but I think, you know, so many people would have been able to relate to you. I relate to you all the time. I message you and ask you for advice, and, you know, I think you would have been such a positive ambassador for all of us stroke survivors, and I'm sure you've done it for all of us.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry now, Romy.
Oh no.
but no, thank you, because yeah, like look, I've been dealt with a hand. I've dealt with that hand, and if I, yeah, like I say, can turn that into a bit of positivity or some, you know, my story, or the way I'm rationalizing and communicating my story can help others in their journey,
Yeah,
then
absolutely. And I think
that's great. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we as advocates for stroke support, for stroke treatments, for stroke charities, need to keep giving a voice to those that are less able to communicate and articulate the needs and wants of that community. And hopefully that will continue to have influence, and the more TV shows like that on primetime telly showcase thrombectomy, and people go, why isn't that as available in the UK as it is anywhere else in Europe? Why are we lagging behind? Why is it not a 24/7 service at more than 20 odd hospitals around the country? Why do you need so much luck to have the luck that Paul had? That's just not right in today's society.
No, and if it means that people are having conversations now about that, you've done a good job.
Exactly, and that's all we can do, isn't it? I can't wave a magic wand for the NHS or for, you know, for any other survivor. All I can do is just, yeah, sprinkle a bit of my experience out there, and hopefully it makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's what we're here for. You know, with A Stroke of Luck, you know, the family, the A team, we're all here to, you know, for people to reach out, and for those that need the support.
Yeah, absolutely, and that might be a nice place to wrap it up, Romy. I would have thought.
I think so. And you know, it's been such a lovely time to talk to you about it, and, you know, I'm very proud that you've achieved that for yourself mostly, really. And I will look forward to our next episode.
Oh yeah, well I'm gonna, yeah, who knows when my next TV thing will be. I might be retired now, but, you know, I might dust off the free shirt, because I got to
we'll
take.
Just have to do many more podcasts, won't we?
Well, we will do, won't we? We will. But it's been lovely to talk to you, and hopefully people enjoy this podcast, and yeah,
we'll look forward to doing the next one.
Indeed.
Thank you, Paul, and yeah, take care of yourself.
Yeah, and you.
Bye.
See ya.